What's the game? The game is, hey, I'm going to try and trick you. I'm going to play these games. I'm going to tell you stories. There's going to be lies in there. And just to make it extra tricky, I'm going to put a lot of truth in there. So it's easier to hide and mix up the lies. And what I'm challenging you to do is to see the lies and wake up and see the truth. So I want to talk about the adversary. You might know it by more common names of devil, Lucifer, Beelzebub, Satan, Maya, Mara, Dream of the Planet. But then the first question is, does it exist? Well, there's very long stories gone through generations of distortions and some religious trains of thought that yes, it really does exist. And it's a very evil thing. And it wants to possess you. And it's going to take your soul when you die, and then you're going to be tortured in hell for eternity. I never quite bought that story. Because I had an idea that I also learned in catechism in Catholic school that God is love. God is all loving. God is all about forgiveness. And so why would this God have a creation where, you know, if you don't obey all the rules, you can go get punished for eternity? And I thought, you know, for whatever bad shit I do in my lifetime, punished for eternity seemed like an overreaction, wasn't exactly fair and just, which God was supposed to be. So the things did not add up. So the invention of Satan as this very evil character, and that you're going to hell after you die if you don't follow the rules, and he's going to be there punishing you, is actually a relatively recent invention. And by invention, I mean a very recent story, the last 1,000, 1,500 years, something like that. My understanding, of course, it's me speaking, so it's only my point of view. So other versions where Lucifer was God's first angel, first creation, messenger of light. God being perfect, God being God, all-knowing, all-loving, wouldn't make junk and wouldn't make a rebel. And Lucifer wouldn't go against God. That doesn't make any sense. Unless, of course, God created something intentionally. Knowing what he was creating. It's not an accident. So there's that version. In the translations from biblical times, as I've come to garner, or at least my interpretation, the term Satan and the personification of Satan as this very evildoer type thing in eternity in hell didn't start out that way. Previous to that, earlier or other interpretations of biblical references, a proper term is more adversary. And Christ going into the desert all by himself, has conversations with an adversary, if you know the Christian versions of that. Right? He goes in the desert, 40 days, no water, no food, just himself. Of course, they say, although while he's by himself, he ends up having conversations with Satan. So how does he do that if it's just by himself? Because he's having conversations with a dream. So Satan, the devil, creation, exist, but exist as a dream. What's a dream? A dream can be an idea or a group of ideas that we believe in. It can be ideas that we don't believe in. But if you think about the story of the ghosts under the bed, and there's a kid who's afraid to go to sleep because there might be ghosts under the bed or in the closet, they're afraid of an idea. They have the idea of a ghost. They have the idea about where it is. The idea comes out as a story, but the story is also felt in the body. And the idea changes very much depending on whether it's an idea that's believed in or one we don't believe in. So the parent that comes in and says, oh, that's silly, it doesn't believe there's a ghost under the bed or in the closet. They still have the idea. But it's not true. Or at least they don't believe it. But to the child that believes it, it feels like the idea they have is also really under the bed and in the closet. So believing in an idea gives us the projection that it's really there. So if you believe there's a devil and there's a Satan and that you might die and go to hell and punish for all eternity, if you believe that narrative, which a lot of Christian people or other religion people do, then it feels that the devil is very real and hell is a very real place. And that's what might happen to us if I don't obey all the rules. If you believe them, they feel very real. If you don't believe them, they're just ideas. They're mythology. challenger, adversary. Talking to us, hooking us into conversation. Oh, it's going to be there for all eternity. Once we've entered into fear, it's easy to add more fear of hell and more fear of eternity. And once we're dreaming that dream. Like once you're in a victim story, it's easy to continue feeling like a victim the rest of the day. Yeah. So the game foot, what it's actually trying to do, what's actually here, tempting us to believe stories that would put us into the state of fear and suffering and challenger. What's the game? The game is, hey, I'm going to try and trick you. I'm going to play these games. I'm going to tell you stories. There's going to be lies in there. And just to make it extra tricky, I'm going to put a lot of truth in there. So it's easier to hide and mix up the lies. And what I'm challenging you to do is to see the lies and wake up and see the truth. To see the truth that these are dreams. And that you have the power of faith to put it into a story and make believe it's real and give yourself the real experience. And that when you wake up and see that it's just made up, that you take your faith out, return that power to yourself and free yourself from the dream. And that is how you'll win your freedom from the stories, from the suffering. Does it sound like a fun game? Let's play. Oh, you're already in the game. Good. And you didn't even know what it was. In the Adam and Eve story, there's an apple and Eve eats the apple and Adam eats the apple and they fall into a dream of believing the lies from the Prince of Lies that's speaking to them in the garden. A talking snake. Ah, there's not a person there, but it's a talking snake, right? Where have we heard this metaphor before? Something speaking, stories, basically as a dream, ideas. And if you eat that apple, what will happen? You will know about knowledge. Because what is the tree it's from is the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. You'll know about good and you'll know about evil. Well, good and evil is just ideas. You'll know about ideas. The ideas of good and ideas of evil. And when you do this, eventually through the process, you will become aware and know yourself as God. That's the end result of learning about this game of good and evil ideas, Satan, dreams, how your faith goes in, make believe real, how you take your faith out, and you'll see your own power of faith to believe and not to believe, and you'll have control over ideas, which is to have control over the dreams in your mind. And you will be like a God controlling the dreams, aware of knowledge and controlling knowledge. But to get good at this, you have to practice. And to practice, you are given an opponent, an adversary, a challenger that will challenge you with tricks and obstacles, all sorts of different stories. Even when you're alone, you have dreams. Christ was alone in the desert. He was facing off with the dreams of ideas of knowledge, challenging him. And when Buddha was sitting under a tree, Mara came. A whole bunch of ideas came. It challenged him. It challenged him to be afraid. It challenged him to thought he was better than everybody else. He'd made it. Just ideas. She was offering him ideas. Those ideas were coming as arrows. And he didn't take any of them. He didn't put his faith in ideas. Ideas are not truth. Thoughts, not truth. Knowledge in the form of language, concepts, not truth. And of course, Buddha sitting there, Mara tempting with ideas. He didn't take a one. It really pissed her off. That like, you're not falling for the trick. So she had her army, envisioned this whole army image and shot all these arrows at it. But he knew these were all dreams coming, temptations, and awareness and presence. He didn't believe the ideas that she was throwing, those ideas shaped like arrows, trying to pierce him, trying to get him to receive it. And he loved that she was offering so many ideas all at once. He like, wow, she's just a storm of ideas. I don't believe a one. And those arrows cannot impact him. Hence the metaphor, they turn to flowers, fall in front of him. And then Mara had a chance to like shapeshift and offer him another tricky idea. Said, oh, you've made it. There's a tempting idea, right? To believe about ourselves. We've made it, we've done, we're something special, something important. Would you like to believe you've made it? Tempting to believe that about yourself and feel all good and important and special and magical. Made it, of course, what it is, I'm not exactly sure, right? But it sounds good and it feels good to dream it. Very tempting idea. But Buddha saw the temptation, the tempting offer, the temptation of the dream idea for what it was. It's ideas, it's not truth. It's knowledge, concepts. made into a story and given emotional attachment and self-importance. I don't need any of that. Because whether that exists or not, I am still here. My earth is my witness. Foundation in truth, I am. Without any story, I am. That's the role of the challenger, the adversary. Not to get you in hell and put you in hell and keep you there forever suffering, but if you don't wake up, don't get control of these ideas and your faith that attaches you to them, get your faith out of them, get unhooked from them, stop believing the stories, the lies, the ideas. If you don't, like, well, then he has you. And you keep shaking it, rattling you with stories, causing you to feel miserable and suffer. It's like, really? Really? You're not even trying to get free now. You're just suffering or you're depressed. And some people are like, they're not even trying to get free because they don't know that they're in the game of wake up, the game of get your freedom back, get some mastery over yourself, your faith over dreams and ideas so they don't control you. And realize your divinity, your power, and your capacity to love and reshape your life.